Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this morning's study. We're going to, of course, open with a word of prayer. So let's begin. Dear Father in heaven, we are thankful that we once again can come together to study. And we know, Lord, that there's many things in this world that cause confusion. We ask, Lord, that we can line our hearts with yours, our goals and ambitions with your kingdom. And we can be fully committed to the work that you've given us to do. We invite your Holy Spirit to speak to us, to instruct us, and to strengthen us, that we can reveal your character to others. So be with us now in this study, we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, well, good morning again. Now, yesterday we had an interesting study dealing with the 25th day of the sixth month, and then also trying to understand the role of the Day of Atonement in the time of Ezra and Nehemiah. So we were corrected on Thursday by the Spirit of Prophecy in that Ellen White says that they observed the Day of Atonement in 444 BC. And I had, because of the silence of the Bible, read into the scriptures something that wasn't there. That is, I thought, I read in there that there wasn't something there that was, I guess, because they don't mention the Day of Atonement, and they don't mention the Day of Atonement in Ezra. But if they kept it in the time of Nehemiah, they must have kept it in the time of Ezra, and that puzzled me too when we dealt with Ezra, that they just don't mention the Day of Atonement. And we also noted that Daniel obviously did not observe the Passover in those 21 days where he's eating no pleasant bread, and he's praying. So he's obviously not observing the Passover. We know that Ezra's traveling during the Passover season, and particularly what they do, whether they acknowledge the day in some way, doesn't really say. They do have the temple in that time, but my understanding that the Passover being moved to the temple is something that didn't happen until much later. And even then, there's a lot of evidence that people did not have their Passover lamb slain at the temple, even though, there's testimony that was done. But I've looked at the logistics of how many lambs they would have to slay and all this type of thing. It seems that either there's an exaggeration or, something that doesn't fit. Anyway, that's a whole other topic. But the fact that we have, the Passover mentioned in the time of Darius after they dedicate the temple the second time. So we know that they're keeping the Passover then, and Ezra is going to be, whatever it is, 59 years later. And yet, he's definitely not in Jerusalem keeping the Passover, because he doesn't get Jerusalem until the first day of the fifth month. So there are some things that we've not really addressed, we haven't really thought about. And so we're going to have to think about them and try to figure out what they mean. So that's the one thing, why the silence about the Day of Atonement? And then we have this 25th day of the sixth month. Now, we noted that it's going to be on 52 days after the fifth day of the fourth month that you're going to have this 25th day of the sixth month. But we note that there is this, and at midnight there was a cry made, behold, the bridegroom cometh, go ye out to meet him, is Matthew 25, verse 6. And then we noted also that Stephen did, that the 20th day of the ninth month, at least I think it was Stephen, maybe it was somebody else, that the 20th day of the ninth month is the 256th day of the year in 457. So maybe there was a Rand that mentioned that. I don't know. But somebody mentioned it. Now, so this 256, we also know is, what is the significance of 256? As a number, is there any other significance that we could attach to 256? You guys, what's the significance of 256? And Iran knows. The 2 and 2 are 4. 4 and 4 are 8. 8 and 8 are 16, 16 and 16 are 32, 32 and 32 is 64, 64 and 64 is 128, and 128 is 256. So that is 2 to the power of what? Right? 2 to the power of 8. Okay, 2 to the power of 8. Okay, thanks, Aaron. Now, is that significant? 2 to the power of 8. Does that tell us anything about this 26th day or 25th day of the 6th month? Matthew 25:6, midnight, the midnight cry. The study that Stephen did dealing with the Boston Tabernacle and the midnight. Is this telling us anything? I mean, 8's the number of the resurrection. I mean, we could just say, 256 is an interesting number. And anything more about the 256, just before we move on from that. That the 256th day of the year is the 20th day of the 9th month in 457, I think would be significant. I mean, we also noted that it was on June 25th that we actually looked at the 256 for the first time, the 25th day of the 6th month. So that might be, maybe not was that the first time? Anyway, we dealt with it then. So there's some significance there. So we got to keep that in mind. Let's go back to Nehemiah. Okay, so in Nehemiah, we had dealt with this, the 24th day of the 7th month. So that is, they're going to have the first day of the 7th month. They're going to observe Rosh Hashanah. They're going to come back. Let me see here how it work. Is he's going to send them home. And is it the 3rd day of the 7th month? Let me see where this is. So we're going to have, because they finish the wall on the 25th day of the 6th month. And then they're going to set up basically the watchman. Must be some significance there. Right. And then some symbols in here dealing with numbers, these offerings and so forth. Then they're going to read the law. So he hasn't found the book of the law. It wasn't lost or anything here at this time. They've had the book of the law, but they're going to bring it. Oh, that was the other question. So Ezra brought the law before the congregation. Now, so this was a question I had, and I completely forgot about asking about it yesterday. So I'm glad I looked at this. Now, suggestions are, so remember, Ezra is going to travel to Jerusalem with Artaxerxes' first decree in 457. Now, Ezra is a priest. Now, he's also a scribe, right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, as a priest, has he been operating in the temple? Like what is his role? And some of the stuff I read, people have this idea that Ezra and maybe even Nehemiah at times returned back to the roles that they had in Babylon and in Persia, I guess. Now, so some people suggest that Ezra shows up for this celebration in the fall, that he wasn't there the whole time, since he arrived back in 457. Anybody know anything about that?
All right. You're wanting to establish that he was a priest, but we don't know if he was of the priestly family that would work within the temple, or if he was of the priestly family that comprised the Levites.
Yeah, and whether he was, there's the courses, the different courses that they have that work
of those that worked within the temple. Yes, I agree.
Yeah. So we don't know those details about him as far as from what I've read. Now I realize I probably missed lots of stuff that I don't notice, but he's going to be the one that's going to. It says he brings the book of the law of Moses, which the Lord had commanded to Israel. So particularly from where, why is he doing this? And it's going to be on the first day of the seventh month. So he's there for Rosh Hashanah. Has he been there the whole time, or does he just show up at this time of year? You know, like there's just things we don't know, right? At least I don't know them. But some people seem to imply that he isn't there the whole time, that he goes back to his work. And same with Nehemiah, that he goes back because he's the cupbearer of the king. So he goes back to that job at some point, which I guess you don't have to live in Jerusalem, but you do need to be there for the feasts, because we know that there's these feasts that they're supposed to go to every time in the year. But obviously, if you're in Babylon, such as Ezra was, and he's traveling during the Passover, he's not in Jerusalem for the feast of the Passover in 457. He will get there for the fall feasts. So there's just these things we've never, at least I haven't thought about. Right? Exactly what's happening at this time as far as their responsibilities toward the sanctuary. So we know what God had set up originally with Moses. Obviously, that's not really followed through the history of Israel. Right? I mean, the sabbatical rest of the land isn't going to be followed, right? The Jubilees are not going to be followed. It seems that there's sort of this sporadic, we'll call it church attendance, even by those that, are God's people and prophets and so forth, that they don't seem to be in Jerusalem when they should be, right? So I don't know. What do we make of this? It's not something that we've discussed before. I mean, maybe we'll find something in the spirit of prophecy through that as far as what she says about it. There's lots here that we have to consider that we've never considered, right? Now, as far as the time, he's going to be reading. Ezra's going to be reading for about 6 hours, roughly, and that is there's reading and also instruction going on, right? There's a question about how long would it take to read it. I think 6 hours to me seems like a long time because Alexander Scorby. See if I can find this. So Alexander Scorby was an English actor who the Bible, the King James, and the Revised Standard Version in a recording back in, I believe it was the 60s or something like that. But it's my favorite reading. Now, of course, if they're reading the book of the law, it doesn't really tell us if they're going, are they reading everything from Genesis to the end of Deuteronomy? So let me see here. So I guess it does take a long time. So to read it, I don't think they could read in 6 hours based on what I've looked at. So if they're reading the book of the law, would they maybe be reading Leviticus? Is that what they're referring to? Rand says Deuteronomy is what he's always thought. That's possible. That would make sense.
I would think it would be the first 5 books.
Well, it couldn't be the first 5 books because I took time looking at it. Now, Alexander Scorby takes 22 hours and 33 minutes to read it in English, the first 5 books. Now, Hebrew might be a bit quicker, but yeah. So, and I didn't think it would be that long, but then, I guess thinking about it, maybe that makes sense. It just seems like it's a long time to be reading. I guess I read it much faster in my head than reading it loud. Okay. But here he's got 6 hours to read. So he definitely couldn't read all of the 5 books. So yeah, that's something that I still don't fully know the answer to. Okay, so anyway, we got the first day of the 7th month, right? So he's going to read the book of the law, right? They're going to be instructed, right? So that they read the book of the law of God distinctly and gave the sense and caused them to understand the reading. Elway comments on that they're instructing the people in understanding it because of the various loss of language and understanding of the language. It tells them not to weep. In the feast of so the second day they gathered together. So that's the second day of the 7th month. So when they had been studying this, they found written in the law which the Lord had commanded by Moses that the children of Israel should dwell in booths in the feast of the 7th month. Well, that would be in the book of Leviticus, whether that's in Deuteronomy as well. Yeah, so the dwelling in booths, that is in Deuteronomy. So that is in Deuteronomy 13. So it could be that they read Deuteronomy as well, or just that they read Deuteronomy, not Leviticus. So Leviticus 23, it tells us that, but also in Deuteronomy 16, where it talks about the Feast of Booths. So maybe that's what they mean. Maybe the book of Deuteronomy, as Iran suggests, is what was read. And that would give a pretty good summary of a lot of things. It wouldn't go through the Genesis creation account and all of that, but it would cover necessary things about the Exodus and about the law itself. Okay, so maybe that's what was read. Okay. So the second day, they have that, they gather together. So they have, after that reading in the morning, they're going to celebrate Rosh Hashanah. Then obviously on the 15th day, or should it say this here, the 7th month, it just says that they should dwell in booths in the feast of the 7th month. So it says also day by day, from the first day unto the last day, he read in the book of the law of God, and they kept the feast 7 days. And on the 8th day was a solemn assembly according unto the manner. So that's going to be the 22nd of the 7th month. And then on the 24th day of this month. So they don't mention the 15th day, but it's implied because you've got 7 days, then the 8th day, which is the 22nd, right? So 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22. 22 is the 8th day. And then, so they mention the first day of the month and they mention the 22nd day of the month. Sort of, not directly, right? They just talk about it being the 8th day. And then they have the 24th day. So I guess technically they mention the first day of the 7th month, the second day of the 7th month, calling it the second day, and then the 24th day of the 7th month. They don't explicitly say the 15th day and the 22nd day of the 7th month, but that would be implied. Okay. But they're going to separate themselves from all the strangers, and they confess their sins and the iniquities of their fathers. So they do this repentance, which would be connected usually with the Day of Atonement. But I would think it's because of their strong conviction that they're going to be continuing to do this after the Feast of Tabernacles. And then they sort of go through this history that is very similar, as I think Stephen noted, or somebody noted, that maybe it's Angela. This is like Stephen's presentation, Stephen, who was stoned, his presentation before he's stoned. So he's going to rehearse all of this history of the people, so recounting their sins. Now, if we think about this, in the context, they have the book of the law, but now they're going through the history of the rebellion of God's people after the time of Moses, right? Which is what we've done. We're following what they have done. We're going through the Bible, through the history of the Bible, the chronology of the Bible. We've been going through that for a few years here. That's why we started that in 2022, understanding the lines. It's in 2022, early 2022. Somewhere in there, I'd have to look it up. Can't remember the date now. We've been going through that history, and now we've gone through the history of the kings of Israel and Judah, and that's basically what he's going to do. He's going to go through, what happened during the period of the judges, in God's mercy, how God's people have rebelled, and yet God has continued to show them favor. but they also have, the temple destroyed, but then it's going to be rebuilt. And now they're basically have to submit to the kingdom of Persia. So the kingdom of Persia allows them to have their own government, to have a city, to have streets and walls and a temple. But he says, basically the problem is that he says here, behold, we are servants this day for the land that thou gavest unto our fathers to eat, the fruit thereof and the good thereof. Behold, we are servants in it. It yieldeth much increase unto the kings, whom thou hast set over us because of our sins. Also they have dominion over our bodies and over our cattle, and at their pleasure, and we are in great distress. Because of all this, we make a sure covenant and write it, and our princes, Levites, and priests seal unto it. Now, they are receiving benefits from being part of the kingdom of Persia, because Persia has created sort of a stable trading system. So one of the things about Persia that they have, and later the Romans and the Greeks to some degree, but mostly the Romans, is that they provide stability of trade, much like the United States does today. If it wasn't for the U.S. Patrolling the trade routes, we'd have a lot of pirates just stealing things. It would be hard to have a global economy. So the United States military provides safe passage for much of the trade that goes on. And the same type of thing happened in the kingdom of Persia. So you could use the king's highways, and you could be assured of a lot of safety, that the goods that you sent out would get to where they're supposed to go, and you would receive your money for those goods, right? So they receive benefit in that way, but still they're producing a lot that is going to some other kingdom other than their own, right? And so for them, they would want to have complete independence. Any thoughts about this so far? All seems to make sense with everyone. No, I think I got that set up properly. Let's see what was happening. Okay, chapter 10. Now, it's going to talk about the people who sealed the covenant, right? So they have this covenant that they mention in chapter 9. And what is this covenant particularly? What is this sealing of the covenant? So they've gone through this experience of the feasts dealing with the seventh month. They've read the book of the law. They've gone through this history. And it says, and because of all this, we make a sure covenant and write it, and our princes, Levites, and priests seal unto it. So this is the first that we have here about this covenant. Amana is the word. So it's going to be in chapter 10 that we have this sealed. But what is this covenant? What are they doing here? Like something that I'm not particularly sure that I know. Now those that sealed, and when we look at sealed, we got the Chatam, which means to close up, and then Al, which is just to close up above, over. So they're closing up over something. It's going to mention all their names: Nehemiah, the Tershata, the son of Halakah, and Zidkah. Zitja. I don't know how you say it. Now that word there, Tzedak, is based upon what it means. The Lord is the righteousness of Yah. So that's like righteousness. So how's that done? That's Zedekiah, right? So that's what I thought. Zedekiah 6667. So it's just the way that they wrote it here in the King James. Doesn't look like Zedekiah. That's Zedekiah. So we got Malachiah, Hakalia, Zedekiah, and all these different names, right? So some of these names we've looked through already. They've been listed before. these were the priests. So here in this list of priests, we don't have Ezra being listed. We have Nehemiah being listed, right? And then the Levites, both Jeshua, the son of Azaniah, etc. Now, in this list, a lot of names there. We don't have Ezra listed in that list, just as a note. Now, the rest of the people, the priests and the Levites, the porters, singers, the Nethinim, and all they that had separated themselves from the people of the lands unto the law of God, their wives, their sons, and their daughters, everyone having knowledge and having understanding, they clave to their brethren, their nobles, and entered into a curse and into an oath. Now, so the curse is the word Allah, which means like an imprecation, a curse, a cursing, execration, an oath, a swearing. And then we have oath 7621, which is Shabuah, that's related to Sheba, right? To walk in God's law, which was given by Moses, the servant of God, and to observe and to do all the commandments of the Lord our God and his judgments and his statutes. So they're going to enter into this covenant in 444 to observe the law. Now we're going to see that the Sabbath issue is going to come up as they address this. And that we would not give our daughters unto the people of the land, nor take their daughters for our sons, right? So they're not going to intermarry, which some of that still was happening even after the reforms in 457, right? And if the people of the land bring ware or any victuals on the Sabbath day to sell, that we would not buy it of them on the Sabbath or on the holy day, and that we would leave the seventh year and the exaction of every debt. So that is to observe the sabbatical rest of the land and the Jubilee, right? Is that what that refers? The exaction of every debt is related to the Jubilee? Or am I reading into that?
I don't know if you're reading into it or not.
Okay. Just to me, the exaction of every debt, that has to do with the reconciliation that happens with the Jubilee. But we would say this, now it's just the expression, like we would leave the seventh year. What would that refer to? Why the word leave the seventh year? It's referring to having the land rest. So leaving the land, like leaving it alone, right?
Allowing it to rest is what you're saying.
Yeah.
So when it says, when it's giving reference to allowing the land to rest and the exaction of every debt, that would mean that those that were in bondage would be freed. Would that
Yeah,
be
so you have, well, people at the end of the 7 years, they can decide if they want to stay as bond servants or if they want their independence.
But isn't this also, is it possible that this was to have been a time when the land was to return to the original families?
That would happen at the Jubilee.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying, that I think the exaction of every debt could mean that. But, it's a translation, and you've got exaction that is a loan, the debt, right? So we know that when people would have a debt, they basically put up their property for collateral, right? And if they couldn't pay it, they would lose their property, but it would be returned to their family at the Jubilee, was the idea, right?
All right.
If I understand the Jubilee correctly. So you got debt. So that's, debt is the word hand. So the exaction is the usury or debt. So that is the interest on debt it could be referring to. So I'm not sure if this particularly is a reference to the Jubilee, but I'm saying it could be. So the thing is, they're dealing with the seventh day Sabbath, right? The holy day. So what's the holy day? They're not going to buy from it on the Sabbath or on the holy day. So that's not referring to the Sabbath. So what is the holy day? That's just Kodesh Yom, right? The holy day is not a reference to the Sabbath.
Agreed. But is it possible that this is a tacit reference back to the Day of Atonement?
Now, that's what I think is it's referring to the Day of Atonement. Now it could be referring to other holy days, but here it's the holy day. So if I look at the Hebrew here, okay, let me see here. Does it seem to be these verses the same? Looks like they're numbering the verses differently in the so these verses. That doesn't make sense to me. So verse 32 here in the Hebrew is verse 31 in the English. Right? So here they're going to have, so we see here, people, the land. So verse 31 is verse 32. Okay. Yeah, so if the people of the land bring any of their daughters, so they bring their daughters, people of the land, bring food, this different stuff here. Buy. So I think this had kind of overlapped. That's what it is. Okay, so this is verse. Yeah, so the verses they're divided different. Okay, that's why I'm having trouble figuring this out. The Sabbath, the day of the Sabbath, and in the holy day. Okay, there you got holy, and the days. So here in the Hebrew, it pluralizes. Oh, does it? No, it doesn't. It just says in the day. So it's not plural, and then Kodesh is just Kodesh. Yeah, it's just weird how they got these verses lined up from the King James. And the word order is quite different. Okay, just because they have to put it into English. So it'd be the holy day, right? So some specific holy day. So I would think that would refer to the Day of Atonement. So we got the seventh day Sabbath, the seventh month Sabbath, the seventh year Sabbath, and the seventh of 7 years Sabbath. Does that make sense to people? That they're dealing with seventh day, the seventh month, the seventh year, and the seventh of the 7th years, right? The 49 years. Do people agree with me that that's the breakdown of Nehemiah 10:31?
That could be logical.
Okay, so yeah, well, it's definitely logical, but and I don't think we're really reading into it. I think it's just we're just paying attention because that must be so the holy day definitely would refer to the Day of Atonement. That would be considered the most holy day of the year. There's other feasts that are important, but it's the only other one that's actually called the Sabbath, even though people try to think that all of these Sabbaths, all of these different rests, but when you look at like the Hebrew, it applies there, like the seventh day Sabbath is the only one called the Sabbath, but the Day of Atonement is also called a Sabbath. And you don't see that anywhere else, other than just in a general sense of rest days or feasts as being Sabbaths. But specifically, that would be the Day of Atonement. Okay, so they're making this covenant that they're not going to buy anything on the Sabbath, that they're going to observe the sabbatical rest of the land and the Jubilee cycle. And so that accounts for all of these things, and they're not going to buy stuff on the Day of Atonement. Also, we made ordinances for us to charge ourselves yearly with the third part of a shekel for the service of the house of our God. So they put upon themselves the price that they pay, the third part of a shekel. Now this would be, I think, the priests, but I'm not certain who particularly is, whether every person would pay a third part of a shekel, but somebody's paying that anyway. for the showbread and for the continual meat offering and for the continual burnt offering of the Sabbaths of the new moons for the set feasts and for the holy things and for the sin offerings to make an atonement for Israel and for all the work of the house of our God. So here, the showbread, the continual meat offering, continual burnt offering of the Sabbaths of the new moons and the set feasts for the holy things. And so they're particularly laying out that they're going to be observing all of these things that God has laid out in his law, right? So that would include, of course, the Day of Atonement and anything else. And we cast lots among the priests, the Levites, and the people for the wood offering to bring it into the house of our God, after the houses of our fathers at times, appointed year by year, to burn upon the altar of the Lord our God, as it is written in the law. So Angela notes Numbers 18, verse 26. If I read that quickly, I read it correctly. I read it quickly. And speak unto the Levites and say to them, when you take of the children of Israel the tithes which I have given you from them for your inheritance, that ye shall offer up and heave offering of it for the Lord, even a tenth part of the tithe. So they give a tithe of the tithe. And we had a little bit of discussion before this study regarding Conrad Vine doing some presentation dealing with the tithe. That White says is probably going to be controversial as it goes viral. But and I'm not really sure why people are listening to Conrad Vine or anything. I've never really listened to him. But Adventism really gets caught up in that kind of stuff. So the third part of the shekel for the service of the house of our God, for the showbread. So all of these different things are going to be observed. And then they cast lots among the priests and the Levites regarding the wood. Right? So I would think that just means as far as when it's going to be brought, who's going to bring it at different times. So at times appointed year by year to burn upon the altar of the Lord. And to bring the first fruits of our ground and the first fruits of all the fruit of all the trees year by year unto the house of the Lord. Also the firstborn of our sons and of our cattle, as it is written in the law, and the firstlings of our herds and of our flocks, to bring the house of our God unto the priests that minister in the house of our God, and that we should bring the first fruits of our dough and of our offerings, and the fruit of all manner of trees, and of wine and of oil unto the priests, and to the chambers of the house of our God, and the tithes of our ground unto the Levites, that the same Levites might have the tithes in all the cities of our tillage. And the priest and the son of Aaron shall be with the Levites, and the priest, the son of Aaron, shall be with the Levites. And when the Levites take tithes, and the Levites shall bring up the tithe of the tithes into the house of our God, to the chambers, into the treasure house. So when the Levites take up the tithes and then bring these tithes and the tithe of the tithes, they're going to be there. I'm sure particularly what it means they shall be with the Levites. There's always to be a priest with the Levites at such times, to take notice that what quantity they receive, that they might not be under any temptation or lie under any suspicion of defrauding the priests of their due, who were to have a part in the tithes, as follows. It's like when the church takes up tithes and offerings, you have 2 deacons there, keep people honest, I guess, not to provide a temptation for somebody who may be in a situation where that could be tempting, I guess. Okay, and for the children of Israel, the children of Levi shall bring the offering of the corn, the new wine, the oil unto the chambers where the vessels of the sanctuary, and the priests that minister, and the porters and the singers, and we will not forsake the house of our God. So they're setting up that the sanctuary will be cared for, that the services will be provided for. Now, when we think about this in the context of, we know this was set up at the beginning, at the Exodus, and that at times they have to renew this commitment. There's going to be times the temple is not cared for, the services of the temple aren't properly cared for. Now, when we think about this as, in the past, like when we think about the Jews and the temple, I don't think we would generally really consider that obligation, what that would mean to the nation of Israel. Yeah, so this is the righteous constitution being implemented. Yeah, so anyway, commenting on this, so we have the Exodus, then we have the time of the judges, and we're going to have a judge come in. It doesn't seem that they are, definitely they're not constantly following the counsel on how that temple is to be cared for, how the sanctuary is to be cared for. So at times the sanctuary is neglected, right? Sometimes it's used as a place for worshiping idols, right? So idols come into the sanctuary. So here in this history of these decrees, the temple had been destroyed. And then there's this progression of rebuilding the temple, establishing the service of the sanctuary. And that's going to occur, gradually. It's not like, Cyrus has this decree and they rebuild the temple right away and they just go back to, observing all of these things. There's a progression that happens with the people, as far as we can see that there tends to be these periods of neglect, right? There's these revivals, and then there's like a falling away that occurs. Now, this in 444 BC, this revival seems fairly thorough. That is, it's restoring many of the things that had been lost as far as how they ministered in the sanctuary. Okay, so yeah, there's lots to think about here on how we would apply this to our history. Now, here we're at Nehemiah 11, verse 1. Now we had noted before when we were studying that 11, verse 1 refers to January 11th. And in our history in 2026, our line comes to an end there, right? That's going to be from 9/11. It's going to be, how did we do that? 876. I can't remember what, 8888. I can't remember how many days it was from 9/11. I should have that all memorized too. Let me see if I can find that. So it's 8,888 days after September 11th. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, and we had that 8765 and then 4321. If you remember how that went, dealing with Charlie Kirk and everything. Okay, so we got this symbol here. It says, the rulers of the people dwelt at Jerusalem. The rest of the people also cast lots to bring one of the 10 to dwell in Jerusalem, the holy city, and 9 parts to dwell in other cities. And the people blessed all the men that willingly offered themselves to dwell at Jerusalem. So the rulers of the people dwelt at Jerusalem. The rest of the people also cast lots. So 1/10 is going to dwell in Jerusalem. So there's a responsibility dwelling in Jerusalem.
Which reminds me of Isaiah 6:13 about a tenth. But yet it shall be a tenth, and it shall return, etc.
Mm-hmm.
The holy seed shall be the substance thereof.
The what?
It ends with the holy seed shall be the substance thereof.
Okay. Yeah, the holy seed referring to what?
Just like the substance thereof.
Okay. That verse is Isaiah what?
6:13.
6:13. Yet in it shall be a tenth, and it shall return and shall be eaten as a teal tree and as an oak, whose substance is in them when they cast their leaves. So the holy seed shall be the substance thereof. Now, usually the holy seed, would that not refer to Christ?
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay. Something to think about. So you got the 10th, right? Remnant. People blessed all the men that willingly offered themselves. Now, it says that willingly offered themselves is one Hebrew word, adah, volunteered to give freely. So, dwell at Jerusalem. Okay. These are the chief of the province that dwelt in Jerusalem. But in the cities of Judah dwelt everyone in his possession in their cities, to wit, Israel, the priests and the Levites and the Nethinim and the children of Solomon's servants. And at Jerusalem dwelt certain of the children of Judah and of the children of Benjamin. Of the children of Judah, Athaiah, the son of Uzziah, and the son of Zechariah, the son of Amariah, the son of Shephatiah, the son of Mahaliel, the children of Perez. Mesa, the son of Barak, the son of Ohozeh, son of Hazaiah, the son of Adaiah, the son of Joarib, the son of Zechariah, the son of Shalomai. All the sons of Perez that dwelt at Jerusalem were 468 valiant men. So 468, that's going to be 68, 468 valiant men. And these are the sons of Benjamin: Salu, the son of Meshullam, the son of Joed, the son of Pedaiah, the son of Koliah, the son of Maasai, the son of Ithiel, the son of Jesiah. And after him, Gabai, Salai, 928. There you got of these people that they're numbered, 403 score and 8, and then 920. Okay. Joel the son of Zikri was their overseer, and Judah the son of Senua was second over the city. And of the priests, Jedediah the son of Joarib, Jachin, and then Sarai the son of Hilkiah, the son of Meshullam, the son of Zadok, the son of Marioth, the son of Ahitub, the ruler of the house of God. And their brethren that did work in the house were 822. Adaiah, the son of Jeroham, the son of Peliah, the son of Amzi, the son of Zechariah, the son of Pashur, the son of Malachiah, and his brethren, chief of the fathers, 242. And Amashiah, the son of Azareel, the son of Ashiah, the son of Mishelmoth, the son of Immer, and their brethren, mighty men of valor, 128. And their overseer was Zabdiel, the son of one of the great men. Also of the Levites, Shemaiah, the son of Hashab, the son of Azrikam, the son of Hashabiah, the son of Bani, and Shabbathai and Jozabad. The chief of the Levites had the oversight of the outward business of the house of God. And Mattenai, the son of Micah, and the son of Zabdi, and the son of Asaph, was the principal to begin the thanksgiving and prayer. And Bakbukia, the second among his brethren, and Abda, the son of Shemua, the son of Galal, the son of Jeduthun. All the Levites in the holy city were 284. Moreover, the porters, Akub and Talmon and their brethren, and kept the gates for the 172. And the residue of Israel of the priests and Levites were in all the cities of Judah, everyone in his inheritance. But the Nethinim dwelt in Ophel, and Ziha and Gizpah were over the Nethinim. And the overseers also of the Levites at Jerusalem was Uzzi, the son of Bani, the son of Hashabiah, the son of Mattaniah, the son of Micah, of the sons of Asaph. And the singers were over the business of the house of God. For it was the king's commandment concerning them that a certain portion should be for the singers' due for every day. And Pethahiah, the son of Meshezabeel, of the children of Zerah, the son of Judah, was at the king's hand in all matters concerning the people. Okay, now they're going to deal with the villages outside of Jerusalem. Just the different names of these people. They dwelt from Beersheba even unto the valley of Hinnom. This one, which is interesting. And the children also of Benjamin from Geba dwelt in Michmash and Aiah and Bethel and in their villages. So you're going to be dealing with like the southern area of Israel. So we know that when they return, they're not going to get all of what we would call Israel, right? You're going to have some of this, what we would They have Judah as their territory, and they have some of the northern kingdom, which is the southern part of the northern kingdom, it seems like, at least at this time. So they are going to repopulate some of the area that was northern Israel, and probably over time, more of it. Okay, now the numbers that they have here, if there's not going to give me a list of numbers in any way that's easy to read. Okay, I guess you just this section. Of the Benjamites, there were 2 heads of houses, Salu, and after him Gabai, Salai, with 928 fathers of families. The chief was Joel, the son of Zechariah. So when they're dealing with the number, they're dealing with the fathers of these different families. So 928. I just want to add this up.
Yeah, and there was a 468 preceding that.
Yeah, the 403 score and 8.
Yeah, and then there's an 822 and an 128 and a 284 and then a 172. I think I got them all.
Okay, so we got the 928 and the 468, and then 822.
Yeah.
And then
128.
Yeah, which is half of 256. No, that's half of 256. And then
284 and then 172.
That's it.
Yeah, well, that's all I could find.
Yeah, so when you add them together, you get, the first 2, you get 1396, and then you add the 822, you get 2218. You add the 128, you get 2346. You add the 284, you get 2630. And then you add the 172, you get 2802. Yeah, that seems to be what we have.
If you drop the 0, you have 382, and that's double 191, which is scrambled 911.
Okay, where was this?
Oh, I've got 3802. I just dropped the 0, and then I thought of 382, which is double 191, which is the scrambling of 911 or 119.
So so we missed the 242. Priests who were heads of the families, verse 13. That makes sense? Did you say that one, Angela, or did you miss that one?
Yeah, I missed that one. I just put it in my margin now.
Okay, so we got 468 plus 928 gives us 1396. And then we add 822. It gives us 2218. And then we add 242, 2460 plus 128. 2588 plus 284, 2872 plus 172. So 3044. I have to think about that. I don't know any significance in that number offhand. And they're going to go through in chapter 12, the priests and the Levites that went up with Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, and Jeshua, Sariah, Jeremiah, and Ezra. Okay, I'm just going to read what it says here. So we got this chart you can see on the side there dealing with Nehemiah 12, which we're going to have to look at a bit more detail tomorrow. But it says Nehemiah 12 verse 1 contains the title of the first list, Nehemiah 12 verse 1 to 9. These are the priests and the Levites who went up with Zerubbabel and Joshua. It says compare with Ezra 2 verse 1 to 2. So Ezra 2 verse 1 to 2 says, now these are the children of the province that went up out of the captivity of those that had been carried away. Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried them to Babylon, and came again unto Jerusalem and Judah, everyone unto his city, which came with Zerubbabel, Jeshua, Nehemiah, Sariah, Realiah, Mordecai, Bislin, Mispar, Bigvah, Rehum, Bana, the number of the men of the people of Israel, right? So we're going to look at these lists and the names. They have a convenient chart here. So and see how they analyze this. Then follow Nehemiah 12, verse 1, the names of the priests with the subscription. These are the heads of the priests and of their brethren in the days of Joshua. So the brethren of the priests are the Levites, as being their fellow tribesmen and assistants. 2 and 20 names of such heads are enumerated, and these reappear, but with slight variations attributable to clerical errors as names of priestly houses in Nehemiah 12, verse 12 to 21. Now, of course, they say that they're clerical errors. They may not necessarily be errors as much as, when you refer to somebody's name, they might have more than one name. Anyway, where they are given in conjunction with the names of those priests who in the days of Jehoiakim either represented these houses or occupied as heads the first position in them. The greater number, that is, 15, of these have already been mentioned as among those who, together with Nehemiah, sealed as heads of their respective houses the agreement to observe the law. Nehemiah 10. Hence, the present chapter appears to be the most appropriate place for comparing with each other of the several statements given in the books of Nehemiah and Ezra concerning the divisions or orders of the priests in the period immediately following the return from the captivity, and for the discussing the question how the heads and the houses of priests enumerated in Nehemiah 10 and 12 stand related on the one hand to the list of the priestly races who returned with Zerubbabel and Joshua, and on the other to the 24 orders of priests instituted by David. For the purpose of giving an intelligible answer to this question, we first place in juxtaposition the three lists given in Nehemiah, chapters 10 and 12. So we'll probably have to take a bit more of a look at this list. So we're going to see that in the one list, he's going to have 21 priests who seal the covenant, priests who are heads of the houses, then the priestly houses here, and then and the respective heads. So you can see there's some that are blank here and there. When in the first place we compare the two series in Nehemiah 12, we find the name of the head of the house of Minjaim and the names both of the houses of the head, Tush between Meluki and Sebaniah, omitted. In other respects, the two lists agree both in the order and the number of the names, with the exception of unimportant variations in the names. Right, so we'll look at that. So if we next compare the two lists in Nehemiah 12 with that in Nehemiah 10, we find that the 22 names given in Nehemiah 12 and the 15 marked thus with an asterisk occur also in Nehemiah 10, that is in Nehemiah 10 verse 4, being evidently a clerical error, they're saying, or another form of, so it's just the guy's name, so it's either another form of it, and that name would be Atzliah or Atzra. So it's I can't see the vowel pointings there. It'd be easier for you to read it too. Yeah, that's Leah, and so that's Nehemiah 10 verse 4. How do they get this 10:4? That tush. I'm not really sure what they're looking at there. It's like I'm not looking at. Is that the whole verse? Just I'm not sure how they're doing that. Okay. Anyway, we're gonna have to come back to this part. So we got this list of names, and then they're going to deal with the dedication of the wall of Jerusalem, which is interesting. So remember, they build the wall. They observe then the feasts in the 7th month, and then they're going to dedicate the wall. And that's going to be interesting. I'm just skipping through this here. Okay, so we're going to have to look at that tomorrow. So there's still lots of things to consider. Any final thoughts before we close with prayer? Okay, let's pray. Dear Father in heaven, we again are thankful for the time that we've had, and we just ask for your Spirit to rest upon each person today. May your angels watch over us. and help us to trust in you as we go through this day. May we hear your voice speaking to us, and may we obey it. Bring us together again to study these things is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.